Attends. Okay, so we can start. Hop. J'ai un problème avec la présentation. Hop. Okay, perfect. So we can start. So welcome everyone to the Delf session. We will discuss about the Delf preparation for level A1 and A2. I'm thrilled to be your host today. My name is Kim and I'm working at the Communication and Cultural Pole at Alliance Française de Bhopal. So we have an exciting discussion planned ahead. Let's kick off the session by introducing our two esteemed guests. So from the Alliance Française Bombay, we have David, the pedagogical director of all the Indian network. Welcome, David.
Bonjour.
And from Bhopal Indoor, we have our pedagogical coordinator, Ansu, who is also our teacher. Welcome, Ansu.
Bonjour, thank you, Kim.
Okay, so before we dive in, let's take a moment to explain to you the format of today's session. So in the first part, we will discuss about the Delf exam. We will introduce you all the exercising and the examinator's expectation. Ansu and David will discuss about the A1 and A2 levels. And they will give us tips and advice on how to be well prepared for the exam. So that's it. And on the second part, we'll discuss about your questions. I remind all the viewers that we have a live chat organized. So you will see on the top right of your screen, you will see a live chat. So we deeply encourage a viewer to participate to the live chat. So if you have any comments, any questions, feel free to share it, and David and Ansu will enlighten you with their insights and expertise. Also, if you don't have the live chat, if you don't have any access to the live chat, you can send a WhatsApp text to the number you will see on the top of the window. That's it. So please, if you choose this option, just give your name and the question, and that's all, with no more information, because actually it will make this experience way more easier for us. So really, we did encourage dialogue between Ansu, David, and you viewers. So thank you for being here with us today, and David and Ansu, it's your turn.
All right, thank you, Kim. Good afternoon, everyone. So we'll start with a brief overview of the A1 and A2 exam format and what you should expect when appearing for the exams next week. So we'll just go ahead and show you. So for A1 level, there are 4 different sections in the exam. The first one is compréhension orale, which is the listening part. The second one is compréhension des écrits, the reading section. Then there is the production écrite, the writing section. And finally, there's production orale, which is the speaking exam. So so that you understand, each section is graded on 25 points. So you get a maximal grade of 100. And the passing criteria for the exam is 50. So as long as you have 50 out of 100, you clear the level. And also something which is really important, you need to score at least 5 out of 25 for each section. So it's very important. So let's get into each section separately. So the first one, like I said, is compréhension de l'oral, the listening part. So this one is out of 25 points. You will have 3 to 4 exercises where you need to answer open-ended and MCQs. So for that, you have about 20 minutes. And the audios which will be played are, conversations with friends, public announcements, even recorded messages from, a family member or friend. And each audio is played twice. So you'll have some time between each time the audio is played. You'll have 30 seconds to 1 minute to answer the questions and to get ready for the next audio. Now, some tips for this part of the exam. First of all, before the audio is played, you will have 30 seconds to read the questions. So we do encourage you to read the instructions and the questions carefully so that you know what to expect. And when you listen to the audios, you'll have an idea of what you will have to answer. Also, you will have a draft sheet with you, so don't hesitate to take notes on that draft so that you can answer the questions, with the correct answer, and you don't get lost in the flow of the audio. And then like I said, between each time the audio will be played, you will have 30 seconds to 1 minute. So you can start answering the questions at that time, and then you can get ready for the second audio. So don't panic. If you don't know the answer to a question, you can kind of take a wild guess, but we do encourage you to always choose an answer, especially for the MCQs. You should always choose an answer. Even if it's incorrect, there's no issue at all because there's no negative marking. So if it's wrong, you won't lose points. And if you're lucky, if you don't really have the answer, at least you can score some points. Now, for the second part of the exam, the compréhension de l'écrit, so the reading part of the exam, again, it's out of 25 points, and you will also get 3 to 4 exercises with the same type of questions, open-ended questions and MCQs. So for that part of the exam, you will have different documents, usually 3 to 4 documents, where we ask you to find your way in a city, so you'll get directions. You will be asked to get information about something or to follow instructions. The texts are very short. It's usually a few lines, maximum 50 to 60 words, and it's all based on one's daily life. So now for the tips and the strategies for this section of the exam. Read the instructions and the questions carefully. Be sure you understand fully what is asked of you in these exercises. So you should read the documents carefully and make sure that you select the information that really answers the questions. So for that, you can take notes on the documents. You can underline, the keywords and anything that seems important to you. There's no issue. You can write whatever you want. We'll only look at the answers that you give. And again, if there's some words that you don't understand, no issue. Just try to get the gist of what is said in the documents. Do read the documents a few times to make sure that you understand them well. And for the open-ended questions, you can just give the information which is asked. You don't need to write full sentences. Also, one information that is important to you, we don't correct spelling and grammar. So as long as, phonetically it works, we'll give the points if the answer is accurate. So these, for compréhension de l'oral and compréhension de l'écrit, these tips and strategies apply both to A1 and A2. It's the documents will be a little different, but the format of the exam will be the same for both levels. So now, moving on to production écrite for A1. So again, 25 points. You will have 30 minutes, and in this section you have 2 exercises. The first one, you have to give personal information. So you'll be given a form, and you have to fill it up with your personal information, such as your name, your last name, first name. So again, last name is nom, and first name is prénom. So you'll be asked to give your age or date of birth, your nationality. Also something important, the nationality in French is always in the feminine form. Even if you're a man, your nationality will be given in the feminine form. So don't forget about that. So you can also have information about your postal address, your email address, phone number, occupation, and so on. It kind of changes every time. And then in the second exercise, you will have to write an email or a letter or a postcard to a friend in a minimum of 40 words. If you write more, that's fine, but at least you should write 40 words. So if we look at the what is expected of you in those two exercises, well, first of all, read the question properly. Make sure that you talk about everything that is mentioned in the question or the instruction that is given to you. We encourage you to underline the key elements in the instructions so that you make sure that you give all the information required. Depending on the instruction, choose the right form, either tu or vous. So if you're writing to a friend, it's going to be an informal situation or even a family member. So you can use tu form. And also you make sure you use salutations like cher Alexis, cher Camille, salut, and so on. And also the formule de politesse to conclude your letter or your email. You can write things like à bientôt, bis, à plus, things like that. Again, you'll be given a draft sheet for this part of the exam. So you can, if you have the time, remember it's 30 minutes long, you can write down some sentences, just to make sure that you get it right, and then don't forget to put it down on the exam paper. So for that, just write short and simple sentences. Make sure that you use words that you know, and don't get lost. Don't try to make sentences that are too complex and too long. Otherwise, it might you might get lost in it. And finally, the most important, which many candidates forget sometimes, do read your text again once you're done, just to proofread what you have written. This is really important. Sometimes after completing this part, when you read it again, you'll see mistakes that you've made. So this is really important. And finally, for A1, the production orale. So in this section of the exam, again, 25 points, you'll have 10 minutes to prepare, and then the exam will last 5 to 7 minutes approximately. So there are 3 different parts in the exam. The first one is the entretien dirigé, where you'll be asked to introduce yourself. So give as much information as you can about your name, your age, your nationality, the languages that you speak, your family members, and so on. You can be as exhaustive as you want, there's no issue. And then the second part, so before the preparation begins, you will be asked to choose 6 words, and then you will ask questions to the examiner based on those words. For example, if you choose the word adresse, you can ask them directly, quelle est votre adresse? Or if it works as well, you can ask, où habitez-vous? As long as it's relevant to the word, that's fine. And finally, for the third part, the dialogue simulé, jeu de rôle, you will have to play a dialogue with the examiner, where you will play you will be a client, let's say in a supermarket, and you want to buy vegetable and fruits and so on, and the examiner will play the employee at the supermarket. So some tips for this section. We really encourage you to prepare your introduction in advance, because you won't have time. During the preparation time, those 10 minutes, you won't have time to work on your presentation. So you should prepare it in advance, just to get that stress off of you. And then the 10 minutes of preparation will only be for the parts 2 and 3 of the exam. But don't forget, after you introduce yourself, the teachers may ask you some questions to, take it further and see how much you understand. Then in the second part, échange d'informations, you should know all the words like qu'est-ce que, comment, pourquoi, où, quand, qui, quel, all the question words. Also try to use variations in the questions that you ask. Don't always ask quel est votre nom, quelle est votre adresse, quelle est votre profession. You should try and formulate those questions in different ways. That way you'll score better. So like I said before, it's not necessary to use the same word as given to you. You can form a question on the same thing. Like date de naissance, you can ask quelle est votre date de naissance, or you can ask vous avez quel âge. That works too. And finally, for the third part, the dialogue simulé, so it will be a formal situation. Like I said, you will be a client, the examiner will be an employee. So use vous and ask the information as given in the instruction. And so you have to select what you want and what you want to buy, and you'll have to pay. So always start your dialogue by using salutations, bonjour madame, bonjour monsieur, and also to ask for something politely, you should use a sentence like je voudrais or s'il vous plaît, just make it formal. And ask information. If you are applying for music lessons, ask as many questions as possible to get the information required. And also don't forget to ask for the price. You can ask combien ça coûte, ça fait combien, and so on. And after you paid, I end the conversation by saying merci, au revoir, bonne journée, formule de politesse, like that. And again, so this applies to all three parts of the oral exam. If you do not understand what the examiner is saying, there's no issue. You can simply ask them to repeat and or to speak more slowly. There's no issue with that. So this is it for A1. Now I'll leave the stage to Ansu for A2.
Merci. Thank you so much, David. Merci. So we'll move on to the A2 level exam. A2 level exam is pretty much like A1 when it comes to the format. You're still tested on 4 competencies. You have compréhension de l'oral, the listening part, compréhension des écrits, which is the reading part, production écrite, the writing part, and production orale, the speaking part. Again, the passing criteria is 50 overall, and in each section you have to have 5 marks. There's not much difference between compréhension orale, compréhension des écrits from A1 and A2. However, in A2 level, one of the questions for the first time you will be getting in compréhension des écrits, it is, they will ask you to justify whether a sentence is true or false. So in that, we would like to give you an information. Whenever it comes to justification, don't write your own sentences. Don't write the sentence that you have made up. Just copy the sentence which confirms whether the justification, the sentence is true or false. All right. So moving on, we will go on to production écrite of level A2. Here, it is of 25 marks, and you have a duration of 45 minutes now to do 2 exercises. The first exercise is a description of an event or an experience. So probably you would have attended a festival or you attended a concert or something like that. So you will have to talk about that. Something very important that we notice when we correct papers, that students often forget to give their impressions. That is extremely important, to give your impressions. Give your impressions how? Just simple words. C'était intéressant. C'était amusant. J'ai beaucoup aimé. Just simple words like this to give your impressions. The second part is a letter to a friend. You will write an email about 60 to 80 words. Again, these are the minimum words required. You can exceed. It's no problem. You will be asked to invite a friend. or to accept an invitation or to decline an invitation. And you will need to justify why you're declining an invitation. If you accept an invitation, probably you will be asked to give some advice. If you'll accept an invitation, probably you'll ask some details about it, right? So some simple questions you will have to put in. Moving on. So some of the tips and strategies for production écrite of A2. You read the questions very well. That is very important. So normally in a question, you will be asked to do 2-3 things. And if you forget to do something, you will be penalized. Okay. So read the question very well. And as David said, underline whatever is asked. That is extremely important. Make the right choice between tu and vous. Are you speaking to a friend? You'll use tu. Are you speaking to someone, many people? Use vous. When you begin the text by saying tu, you have to follow the same thing throughout the text. Later on, for example, if you end up saying s'il vous plaît instead of s'il te plaît, that is an error. Okay, so just make sure that you pay special attention to tu and vous. Same as A1, very basic. You use salutations and the formule de politesse. So, cher Alexis, cher Camille, cher Mylène, and au revoir, bisous, all those. To give impressions, verbs like aimer, adorer, détester, intéressant, génial. In A2 level, you need to know your past tense well. Okay, so just practice your passé composé a lot before the exam. Normally, when you're narrating and talking about an event or narrating something, you need to use your past tense. Some simple connectors. You do not need very complicated connectors. Some simple connectors such as mais, parce que, that's all that you require. In A2 level as well, like in A1 level, you will get a rough sheet, or you can ask for multiple rough sheets. Write whatever you want on it. Organize your ideas however you want to. The examiners are never going to look at your rough sheet. Okay, so don't hesitate to organize the ideas the way you would understand. Finally, you use short and simple sentences. I mean, I understand that it's very, you would want to make complicated sentences to leave a very good impression on the examiner, but make sentences that are efficient, right? Small sentences that you know are correct. The idea is not to use fancy language. The idea is to communicate properly, and that you need to pay attention to. Finally, read your text once, twice, again, and again, so that you make sure that your adjective is accorded to the noun. Masculine, feminine, your verbs are correctly conjugated. Small, basic things you need to pay attention to. We'll move on to the production oral. It's for 25 marks, and you have 10 minutes for preparation. Like in A1, you have 3 parts. The first part is entretien dirigé, where you would have to present yourself. So just make a small presentation similar to A1. However, this time the questions that will be asked will be a little more detailed. So probably in A1, if they ask you, where do you go to play cricket? In A2, they would ask you with whom, at what time, could you describe the area a little bit, a little bit more. So you are still in your comfort zone. However, you're speaking a little bit more. You're describing more. In your monologue and for your monologue and dialogue, you'll have two options. You'll have to pick one out of these two. For monologue, you will have to talk about 2 to 3 minutes, and you have some questions given. So I'll give you an example. For example, the question is of Ami. So where did you meet who is your best friend? Describe your best friend, and where did you meet him? You do not need to follow the same order. You can change it. You can do it according to yourself. You can first talk about, okay, my best friend is this person. I met him or her here, and we became friends like this, and he is tall, short. It's okay. The main thing is that you include everything that has been asked, and you can obviously change the question order. Finally, you have a dialogue. In dialogue, again, the same thing. They will ask you to buy something, or go to a cinema hall and book a ticket, or get registered, apply to a club de sport, a sports club, something like that. Very simple. So some tips and strategies. Prepare your introduction in advance, but don't make an introduction that is 10 minutes long. We just need to know you a little bit in order to ask you questions. They are going to be based on your presentation. So if you say, for example, j'aime lire, I like to read, the examiner is going to ask you questions about reading and books, right? When you get time of 10 minutes, focus on exercise and second and the third exercises. For monologue, as usual, you'll choose between two sujets. Both of these exercises, just make sure the topic that you're choosing is something that you understand well. It is of the same theme. Don't again try to be ambitious at this level and choose a difficult one in order to impress the examiner. No. Both of them, whatever you are feeling comfortable with, you choose that topic. For dialogue simulate, the dialogue, choose a sujet you're most comfortable with. So if you're talking to a friend, you will have to use tu. If you're speaking to someone, an employee, you'll have to use vous, formal or informal situations. Make sure that you use formule de politesse. That is extremely important. You cannot start by saying, I want to do a no. You have to start with bonjour. That is extremely important. Use some polite sentences. Merci, s'il vous plaît, s'il te plaît, au revoir, bonne journée. And in case, again, you're not understanding what the examiner says, you can always ask him to repeat or to slow down. If you have any more questions about the pattern of the exams, we have a few websites. You can refer to these websites for some sujet exam, some exam papers, mock exam papers that are available to everyone. So just go ahead, look at these papers, and I'm sure that will be more than enough. So now, if you have any questions, I'll pass on the mic to Kim, and David and me will be happy to reply to your questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ansu. Thank you, David, for your expertise and advice. So I have several questions, but first, I just had to tell you that the link you'll see on the board are available in our bio on the Twitch channel, but also you can have the link up on the window, on top of the window. So, regarding your questions, we have several questions. Somebody is asking what is the format of production écrite, writing part, of A2?
So there's no particular format that you have to follow. Just start with bonjour, Milan. Next line, you just start writing and just say au revoir, and that's it. You will not be marked on the format. If it's a letter, it should look like a letter. We do not need you to put all that sender address and receiver's address. That is too complicated. That is not required. Just start with bonjour. Next line, you start writing and finish it. That's all.
Perfect. Thank you, Ansu. Merci, Ansu. Another question from Matt Midcore. Do we have to mention the number of words after writing?
Yes. It's best if you write down the number of words. But you won't lose points if you don't, because we will check. All the examiners always check the word count.
Okay, merci, David. Another question: how much conjunction is needed in A1 exam?
Conjunctions such as mais, et, things like that, I presume. Use them if it's relevant to your production écrite. Don't try to, put everything that you know, all the words that you know. Don't try to impress us. Just it has to be relevant. If you're adding ideas in the same sentence, then you can use a. Or if you can use mais. But again, it all depends on what you write. So we should expect those simple words: et, mais, alors. But that's it. We don't expect more than that for A1 level.
Okay, thank you. Another question, what if we use vous with the friend as well?
So, well, it depends. I would say normally if there is a question, and the question normally in A1 and A2, the friend is going to write to you, right? You'll see something that a friend has written. We'll go by the French way. If you use vous with a friend, it normally doesn't work. Yeah, so if it's a friend, it's better if you use tu. And the question will, a friend, if he's addressing to you, he will be using to as well.
Okay,
and it's important to remember, like Ansu said earlier, make sure you use the right word throughout your text. If you start with tu, don't switch to vous later on. Otherwise, you will lose points on that.
Perfect, thank you. Another question, do we have an option while choosing the role play for A1?
Yes, so every time you will give you a few sujets, you pick two, you read them, and then you choose the one you prefer. So it's always, you know, it's very random. It's if you're lucky, you'll have something that you're very comfortable with, but you always have the choice between two different options.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Another question, will we be giving the choice to choose the monologue topic out of the given ones?
Yes, that's the same. That's the same. You'll pick out two sujets and then you choose one.
Okay, another one. We will have to mention date and place at the top of the invitation for production écrite.
If you do, it's okay. If you don't, it's okay. It's not necessary. I mean, just be as simple. The main objective is to communicate, to put your information across. Just use bonjour, the name of the person, and start writing.
Perfect. Another question, in production écrite, sorry, in first exercise, do we have to fill our name only?
I'm not sure I get the question. You'll have different information to give name, I mean last name, first name, which by the way, you don't have to give your actual information. You can make it up. You can decide to be called Jérôme, Rémi, Elisabeth, whatever. As long as it's accurate. If we ask for prénom, first name, it should be any first name. That works. And then, so you'll be asked to give your date of birth, your email address, there'll be about 8 to 10 different information which will be asked.
If I may add, David, also, again, read the question very well. If they say that vous êtes en France, so make sure that you put an address of France. Otherwise, if you put some address that is from India, it's incorrect. Vous êtes en France, that means they're asking you to be in France and put a fictive imaginary address for France.
And the same will obviously apply to the phone number. It should follow the French format. But then again, you can make it up. There's we don't care about the if it's an actual number or not, as long as it follows the French format. And again, spelling and grammar are not checked. So it's fine if you misspell some words, like street or something. That's fine. You won't lose points because of that.
And often they talk about age, the age. So, for example, if you write 29, we do not know whether you're 29 days old, 29 months old, 29 years old. So make sure that you mention 29 years, 29 29. Don't forget that on.
Okay, perfect. Thank you a lot. Another question from Gunjan Sharma. I wanted to ask that in production orale A2, if we don't use the main word, which we have chosen, but we have asked the question similar to the word, would it satisfy the examiner?
100%. 100%. As long as the information is conveyed, yes.
Thank you. So another question, do we need to write in paragraphs? Is yes. How many should be there for A2?
For the moment, you don't need to really write in paragraphs. Just be efficient and simple. All that structuring and everything will come later. Right now, life is simple.
But
Right.
do make sure that you organize your ideas. If you if you get invited to, if the instruction tells you to refuse an invitation and explain why, just have first you thank the person for inviting you, then you apologize and you mention that you are not available, and then you explain why, and maybe you can ask for an alternative.
It should be, yeah.
But you don't need to write paragraphs as such. Not in A1 and A2 levels, where you're not there yet.
Okay, another question. If number of words exceeds 80, marks will be deducted in A2?
Not at all. The minimum word limit is 80. You can write 120. You can write 200. I mean, we wouldn't advise you to write 200 words, but marks will not be deducted for the number of words. But make sure the more you write, the more chances there are to make errors.
What you need to understand about the word count is that if you write less, we don't have enough material to assess your language skills, your writing skills. And if you write too much, let's say you write 200 instead of 80, that's more opportunities for you to make mistakes. So it's important that you stay in that bracket. If it's 60 to 80 words, max you should write 100 words. Just to, it's not less than not less than 60 words, but no more than 100 words.
Okay, thank you. For A1 production orale, is it always the same jeu de rôle where the candidate is a client customer?
It's so you'll have different situations. So the most common and the one that we practice the most in class is going to the supermarket and buy fruits, vegetables, water, or whatever. But you can also, as I mentioned earlier, you can be interested in starting guitar lessons. So you'll go to a music school and you'll ask information about the classes and things like that. You can ask information about movies at a cinema. You can be asked to what situations do we have also?
You can also ask, you might be with friends and you can plan some sorties, an outing. You can also be asked to buy a gift for someone, your family members or a friend or something, your father, your mother, some birthday party. You might be organizing a birthday party from some other friend. So you have to discuss very simple situations where you will just have to use basic sentences and questions to form the dialogue. That's all.
You can also be asked, so the situation will tell you that you're visiting France and you're going to the Office de Tourisme and you ask information about the activities and the museums and the restaurants and things like that. So you have to ask information about this, but all of this will be given to you in the sujet that you choose.
Thank you. Another question is, what if we get a topic that we have no knowledge about? Can we request to change it, or is it compulsory to go on with it, whatever you get?
Again, you'll pick out two different sujets. So there's no way that you have no knowledge of any of the sujets that you pick. And it's based on daily life. It's daily situations, going to the restaurant, going to the supermarket, going to the cinema. So it's not tricky. The point is not to make you lose points. We want to see what you're able to communicate orally. So it's daily situations. So don't be afraid of of that. It's you'll know what you're talking about.
Okay, thank you. Another question. In the conjunction, there are être, avoir, and many more. Do we need to know all present, past, composed, and that we need to know, or some of them?
Again, it's not a grammar test. We are never going to ask you to conjugate, I don't know, permettre in passé composé. No. As long as you can make sentences to convey your information, that's all that you require. If you use only 5 verbs and the information is conveyed, very good, no problem.
Thank you.
In the way that we assess, we have different criteria. So it's we evaluate everything separately. But for A1 present tense is sufficient. A2 you should know the passé composé and imparfait. That will be checking that you know that in A2 level.
Perfect. 3 questions. Are students allowed to write answers while the audio plays? And what is the time gap between 2 audio plays? And are the grammar-based questions?
No grammar-based question. We don't assess, your knowledge of verb conjugation and articles and all the grammar. We don't assess that per se. We just want to see if you are able to use all of that in order to communicate. So there won't be any grammar question as such, and you can answer the questions while listening to the audio. You can and you should, but you can use the draft paper that you'll be given, to note down some things that you hear, and it depends. Usually you'll have 30 seconds to 1 minute between each audio, but all of that is mentioned on the examination paper.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I have another question. On the question paper, we have to write on all details like name, age. Somebody asking more questions because they missed what you say about it. Can you repeat, please?
Okay, so in the question paper, could you repeat the question, Kim? What was exactly the question?
She just wanted to, the person just wanted to know that on the question paper, do they have to write their own detail, like name, age, and everything?
So in the front sheet, you will be asked to put a code candidat. That's going to be your candidate code. That will be in your convention in the document that you have. You'll be asked to put your name and the day, name and your surname, and that's it. Throughout the question paper, inside, even if you make an imaginary name, that's not a problem. In fact, we suggest you to make an imaginary name. Why not? You have a chance. Be a French person.
Thank you. In production écrite, do we have marks for the format also?
Not at all. But it has to be logical. For example, if they ask you to write an email and you just start writing, okay, so here last week I went, well, that's an article. So you have to have a bonjour and a few sentences to prendre congé, to take your leave, like au revoir, bisous, amicalement, all that. So yes, not really format, but it should look like an email. It should look like a letter. It shouldn't be an article if an email is asked.
Somebody wanted to know if questions would be asked after presenting monologues.
They could be asked, not necessarily. If your monologue is good, complete, I mean, even if, or you are exceeding the time, maybe that depends on a lot of criteria. The examiner might not ask you questions. And that could be on the other hand also, if you're speaking very, very well, the examiner would ask you a few more questions to extract more out of you. They could be asked, but if they're not asked, that doesn't mean that you perform badly.
Then again, we are not trying to trick candidates. We just want to see how extensive the skills are. So if you speak very well and you are very, if your monologue is very extensive, we might ask a few questions to take it further. Otherwise, if you speak for less than 1 minute, we'll ask question obviously to make you speak. But don't be afraid of the examiners. We're not here to trick you. That's really important. We're here to see and assess what you can say in French.
Thank you. Another question. Sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. For the A2 production orale, sorry, would there be topics related to convincing?
For convincing, no, that'll come in B1. You don't have to convince a person. They won't be. They won't make the situation problematic for you. It's a very direct conversation.
But you may have to, negotiate. Let's say if you have a sujet where you have to organize a party for a friend's birthday or something, you'll have to not convince the examiner, but you'll have to, work around. If you suggest a date, the examiner might say, "Oh no, I'm not available." So you'll have, it's just, again, the idea is to see how you react to unexpected situations. But there's no convincing as such in A1 and A2 levels. It's basic conversation.
Perfect, thank you. Another question, does a bad pronunciation reduce marks?
David, you want to take this one?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, there's different criteria in the assessment sheet. So phonetics, pronunciation is one criteria. We don't expect you to have a perfect French accent. Obviously, it's not possible at these levels. What we focus on is understanding easily what you are saying. We should not focus too much in on trying to understand what you're saying. As long as it's pretty fluid, it's fine. You have your accent. That's normal. So
that's good.
Yeah. So basically, we're just for A1 and A2, we're just focusing on understanding. That's it, and not putting too much effort into understanding what you're saying. It has to be pretty fluid.
Okay, thank you. Concerning the accent, we have somebody telling us that she is very nervous that whether I get to understand what the examiner is asking me, because obviously there is a difference between an Indian speaking French and a Frenchman speaking French.
Well, yes, there is a difference, but do not worry at these levels. The French people, they're also examiners, so they will also reduce their speed. They will pronounce very slowly and clearly what they're going to say. And ever if you have any problems in understanding, please do not hesitate to ask the person to repeat or to go a little slow. That is not a problem.
Okay, thank you, Ansu. Another last question, I think. Somebody is asking if if you will use like pen or pencil used for the exam, which was
a very nice question. You have to use a pen. You cannot use a pencil. If you want, maybe you write with pencil, but then at the end of when you are giving the paper to the invigilator, the answers written in pen are the only ones that will be corrected. So please use a pen. Now the other question would be which color pen. So you can use a black or a blue pen, not a problem.
Okay, no more question left. So it's been an hour now. So thank you a lot, David and Sue, for your expertise and insights. For everyone here, so I wanted to thank you for being here with us and for hosting and for being our guest, our esteemed guest. Thank you for your time. And before we wrap it up, don't forget to follow our channel, just to be a know for the updates and future session. We have another session tomorrow at 10 p.m. for the B1 and B2 level, and Saturday at 12 p.m. also we have a session dedicated to C1 and C2 level. So thank you again, and this is the end of the session.
Thank you so much. Au revoir.
Merci beaucoup.
Bonne chance.
Bonne chance.